The restaurant buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the faint scent of garlic and rosemary drifting from the kitchen. Yet in the corner, near a window streaked with raindrops, sat Liam, nervously adjusting the cuff of his worn jacket. A single dad of 3, he had been coaxed into this blind date by well-meaning friends who swore it was just for fun. Little did he know, tonight's setup was more than a harmless attempt at romance. It was a cruel joke. Across the room, a group of young professionals whispered behind menus, smirking as they watched him fidget. They knew something Liam didn't. His date, the woman he was about to meet, was deaf, and they had orchestrated the meeting purely for their amusement. Liam, oblivious, took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. He had grown used to people doubting him, judging him for being a janitor with a humble life. But he refused to let that define him. Tonight, he wanted to show kindness and sincerity, no matter the setup. The hostess led a young woman to his table. Her name was Alara, and though she could not hear the chatter around her, her eyes were alive with curiosity and caution. She carried herself with quiet grace, her hands brushing nervously over the strap of her handbag. Liam stood, offering a polite nod and a gentle smile. "Hi, I'm Liam," he said. He knew she wouldn't hear him, but he spoke anyway, a habit formed from a life where words mattered even if they weren't always received. Alara responded with a small, polite smile, her hands lifting to meet his in a silent handshake. Liam quickly realized she communicated through sign language. Panic rose briefly in his chest. He didn't know much, but he refused to let that stop him. He had always believed that communication was more than just words. It was patience, attention, and heart. He pointed to a seat, motioning for her to sit. She returned the gesture with a soft nod. Liam fumbled in his pocket for a pen and notebook, his hands slightly trembling. Can we write?" he scribbled quickly. She glanced at it, her lips curving into a tentative smile, and wrote back in neat handwriting. "Thank you. I hope this won't be uncomfortable." Liam smiled warmly, writing back, "I don't believe in uncomfortable. Just honest conversation." As they began this unusual exchange, the whispers from the other tables grew louder, the cruel intention behind the setup barely masked by polite laughter. Liam sensed something was off but chose to ignore it. He focused entirely on Alara, noticing the slight tilt of her head when she smiled, the way her fingers moved gracefully as she wrote. There was a strength in her that resonated with him, something he hadn't expected to encounter on a blind date designed to humiliate him. Minutes passed, and the conversation, silent yet filled with meaning, unfolded. Liam learned that Alara was an artist who painted emotions rather than words. She had faced challenges most people couldn't imagine, and yet there was a softness to her that reminded him of his own children, resilient, caring, and unexpectedly brave. He felt a protective instinct, one that had guided him through sleepless nights with his kids and through years of working odd jobs to keep them fed and clothed. He gestured to the rain outside, and she nodded, lifting her notebook. "It's beautiful. Like the world is crying with us." Liam's heart thumped. That simple acknowledgement, that shared understanding of emotion, felt like a bridge between two worlds that were not supposed to meet in a restaurant under the scrutiny of judgmental eyes. Then came the moment the pranksters had hoped would humiliate him. One of them, leaning over from a nearby table, whispered loudly enough for Liam to notice, "Do you even know how to talk to her?" The group stifled laughter, certain they would see awkwardness, failure, embarrassment. But Liam simply smiled and wrote, "I know how to listen." That's all anyone ever really needs. Alara looked at him, eyes wide, and wrote quickly, "You really understand?" Liam nodded, though she couldn't see, and wrote back, "Yes. And I think I understand more than you know." At that moment, the cruel setup began to unravel. The group's laughter faltered, their whispers fading as Liam's sincerity filled the space between him and Alara. They had expected stammering words, awkward gestures, perhaps even rejection, but instead, they witnessed something none of them had anticipated, a connection deeper than sound or superficial amusement, one forged in respect, patience, and genuine human warmth. The rain outside intensified, tapping against the windows like a quiet applause as Liam leaned slightly forward, gesturing for her to continue sharing her thoughts. She did, and for the first time that night, the restaurant wasn't a stage for a joke. It was a sanctuary for two people discovering the beauty of being truly seen, truly understood, in a world that often overlooked both. By the time the first course arrived, Liam and Alara were laughing. Well, Liam was laughing, and Alara's eyes danced with mirth. And for the pranksters, the anticipated spectacle had dissolved into something entirely unexpected: tears of disbelief, watching kindness triumph where cruelty had been planned. The clatter of cutlery faded into the background as Liam and Alara continued their unconventional conversation. Rain streaked the windows, blurring the city lights into shimmering streaks of gold and silver. Liam felt a strange calm wash over him, something he hadn't felt in years, because here, in the middle of a bustling restaurant, no one else seemed to matter. Not the whispers, not the judgmental stares, not the group that had orchestrated this as a joke. Only her. Only the connection forming between two souls who weren't defined by sound or circumstance. Alara tilted her head, fingers flying across her notebook. "Do you always see the good in people?" Liam paused, considering. He wrote carefully, "I try to. It's hard sometimes. Life teaches you quickly when to fight and when to forgive." Her gaze softened. She scribbled back, "I think I like your eyes. They don't lie." Liam felt a warmth spread through his chest. Years of struggling as a single dad had made him wary of flattery or empty words. But this was different. Her honesty was piercing, genuine, and it seemed to cut right through the self-doubt he carried like an old coat. Nearby, the group that had planned the prank sat frozen. Their smirks had vanished, replaced by confusion and something approaching awe. They had expected awkward silence, stammered words, embarrassment, but instead, Liam had navigated the challenge with dignity, patience, and a surprising sense of humor. Each gesture, each written word, built a bridge that none of them could cross. Liam gestured toward the window, trying to describe the rain in words she might understand visually. He wrote quickly, "It's like a symphony. Each drop plays its own note, yet together it makes a song." Alara's fingers paused on her pen. Then she wrote back, "I feel it. It's like the world is speaking without words. You really notice things." He nodded, smiling. He couldn't see her smile, but he could feel it in the gentle tilt of her shoulders, the way she leaned closer to the table. Liam realized that for the first time in a long while, he wasn't just existing to survive, he was present, truly present for someone else. And that presence was reciprocated in ways that no sound, no words, could fully convey. Then came the subtle shift. Liam's notebook was filling, his pen scratching furiously as he shared glimpses of his life. The sleepless nights with his 3 kids, the pride in watching them grow despite the odds, the quiet struggles that no one outside his family ever noticed. Alara's responses were thoughtful, reflective, and occasionally teasing, her humor shining through the inked letters. Somewhere between his story and hers, laughter started to bubble up. Not loud, not performative, just real. Liam's chest ached with the joy of being understood without pretense. And as he laughed, he realized something profound. In this shared silence, they had created a language of their own, one built on patience, empathy, and recognition of each other's struggles. The pranksters tried to interrupt, leaning over with whispers meant to provoke him. "She's writing fast, can you keep up?" One snickered. But Liam didn't flinch. He simply wrote, "I'm listening. Always." Alara looked at the note, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She scribbled furiously, "You're different. Most people, they don't see me." Liam's hand hovered over the page. He wanted to tell her more, but words were insufficient. Instead, he wrote, "Then I'll make sure I do. I see you." And in that moment, the restaurant seemed to pause. The whispers, the judgment, the cruel setup, all of it became background noise to something far more powerful, the recognition of humanity, the meeting of 2 hearts that had both known hardship and resilience. As the main course arrived, Liam noticed her eyes lighting up at the colors on the plate, the careful presentation. He leaned closer, pen in hand, and asked, "Do you like trying new things?" Alara's response was swift and playful. "Only if it's not too weird." He chuckled silently, nodding. "Then we'll start with something normal. But I think we might end up trying the weird together." Her laughter, silent, yet vibrating through her entire being, made his chest tighten. This was no longer just a blind date. It had become a lesson in courage, patience, and genuine connection. And as he observed her, he felt a protective urge stronger than anything he had experienced before. In that moment, he didn't care about appearances, about social expectations, or the judgments of the pranksters. He only cared about her. Outside, the rain had slowed to a gentle drizzle, each drop reflecting the soft glow of the city lights. Inside, Liam and Alara continued to write, to share, to laugh, and to understand each other in a way that transcended the cruel intentions of others. And for the pranksters, their amusement had dissolved into disbelief. They had come expecting ridicule. Instead, they witnessed something far more moving: a single dad and a deaf artist finding joy, connection, and mutual respect in a space designed to humiliate. By the time dessert arrived, Liam's heart was pounding, not from nerves, but from the exhilaration of discovery. He realized that the night had transformed into something unforgettable. And in the quiet moments between scribbles, he found himself thinking, maybe the world hadn't been cruel after all. It was just waiting for people like them to notice its beauty. The restaurant's lights flickered briefly as the storm outside began to fade, leaving behind a quiet, misty evening. Liam felt an unfamiliar sense of anticipation pulse through him. This was no longer just a date, it was a turning point. Every glance, every gesture, every shared moment of understanding felt monumental. Across the table, Alara's fingers danced over her notebook, her movements deliberate, yet playful. Liam watched her carefully, sensing that she, too, felt the shift. He wrote, "Do you ever feel like the world misunderstands you?" Alara's reply came quickly, "Every day. But tonight it feels different." Her words were simple, but they carried weight. Liam's chest tightened with emotion. He had spent years navigating judgment, misunderstanding, and underestimation, not only from strangers, but sometimes from friends and coworkers who couldn't see past his humble exterior. And yet here was someone who didn't just see him. She understood him, perhaps better than anyone ever had. The pranksters at the other table had grown restless, their earlier confidence fading as they watched the exchange. They leaned in again, whispering cruel comments meant to provoke embarrassment. "She's just pretending to like you," one hissed. "Wait until she gets bored of scribbling. Then he'll look foolish." Liam ignored them. Instead, he leaned closer to Alara, gesturing toward her notebook. "I think patience tells a story, words can't." Alara's eyes softened, and she wrote slowly, "I like that. You notice what others miss." He nodded, a faint smile touching his lips. In that moment, Liam realized something profound. He had always survived by noticing small details, by paying attention to what others overlooked. It had served him as a father, as a janitor, as a man who moved through life without expectation of admiration. And now, it was serving him in a way he hadn't imagined, creating a connection with someone who felt equally unseen. The dessert arrived, an intricate plate of chocolate and berries, but Liam barely noticed. His focus was entirely on Alara, on the story unfolding between them. She had begun sharing fragments of her life, pieces that revealed both vulnerability and strength. She spoke, in writing, of the isolation she had endured, of the stares and whispers in public places, and of the longing for someone to truly understand her. Liam's heart ached. He wrote, "You've been brave without even knowing it. Most people don't see that, but I do." Alara's fingers paused midair. She looked at him, eyes wide, then scribbled, "You really see me." He nodded. "Yes. And I think the world needs to see you more." It was then that something remarkable happened. One of the pranksters, emboldened, tried to make a scene, standing up to draw attention. "Hey, "Isn't this all kind of weird?" he sneered, expecting laughter from his friends. But no one laughed. The group froze as Liam turned toward him, calm but firm. He didn't need to speak. He simply wrote in his notebook, held up for all to see. "We're sharing kindness, not judgment. Try it sometime." The room seemed to shift. Other diners, previously unaware of the tension, glanced over curiously. The prankster's smirk faltered. The cruel setup had backfired spectacularly. Instead of ridicule, Liam's sincerity and Alara's courage had created a moment so compelling, so genuine, that it demanded respect. Alara's hand brushed Liam's accidentally as she reached for her notebook. The contact was brief, but it sent a warmth through him he couldn't ignore. He noticed the same spark in her eyes, the realization that they had both found something rare in each other: trust, respect, and a quiet joy that didn't need validation from the outside world. "Do you believe in second chances?" she wrote suddenly. Liam smiled, thinking of his children, of mistakes he had made, of opportunities he had once thought lost. "I believe in every chance we have to do better, to love better, to see better." "Do you?" she wrote quickly, almost eagerly. "Yes. I think tonight is one of those chances." The pranksters shifted uncomfortably. Their plan to humiliate him had failed, and now they were mere observers to a connection they couldn't understand, couldn't replicate, and couldn't diminish. Liam and Alara's conversation flowed with unexpected ease, covering dreams, fears, hopes, and small, ordinary joys. He wrote, "What's your favorite memory?" She paused, then carefully wrote, "The day I painted my first real canvas. I thought it would be messy, but it turned out beautiful. It made me feel alive." Liam's smile grew. "I know that feeling. For me, it's when my kids accomplish something I never thought possible." "You feel their joy as your own, right?" Her response was immediate, her eyes sparkling. "Exactly. I feel it. Like our joys are multiplied when shared." For a moment, silence settled between them. Not uncomfortable, but profound. It was a silence filled with understanding, respect, and an unspoken promise of more to come. Outside, the rain had stopped completely, leaving behind a fresh, crisp night. Inside, a new story was beginning, one that the pranksters had never intended, one that would leave a lasting impression far beyond the restaurant walls. And Liam knew, with a certainty he hadn't felt in years, that tonight was the start of something extraordinary. The soft hum of the city night seeped through the rain-streaked windows, blending with the muted chatter of the restaurant's remaining diners. Liam felt a quiet thrill in his chest. Something intangible had shifted. This wasn't just a blind date anymore. It was an encounter that neither he nor Alara would forget. He glanced at her, noticing the subtle way her fingers hovered over the notebook before writing, her focus absolute yet relaxed. In those moments, he realized that she wasn't just responding, she was engaging, challenging, and inspiring him. He wrote, "You have a way of seeing people that's rare. How did you learn it?" Alara paused, then scribbled slowly, "Life teaches you. When the world doesn't listen, you have to pay attention yourself." Liam nodded, understanding perfectly. His own life had been shaped by attentiveness, by watching his children struggle and cheering for every small victory, by noticing when someone needed a kind word or a helping hand. It had been a life of small, quiet acts, the kind that didn't earn praise but built resilience and love. And now, he saw the same strength reflected in her. From the other table, the pranksters were growing more restless, their amusement turning into frustration. Their whispered taunts had failed, their plan collapsing in real time. One of them muttered under his breath, "How is this happening?" He's connecting with her. Liam didn't flinch. He simply wrote to Alara, "Sometimes people try to make others feel small because they're afraid of what they can't control. Don't let them." She looked up, her gaze meeting his with a mixture of gratitude and admiration. She wrote, "I don't. Not tonight. Not with you." It was a declaration that made his chest ache with emotion. Here was someone who had faced isolation, misunderstanding, and indifference, and yet, in a crowded restaurant, she chose to trust him. And he, A single dad who had survived loss, hardship, and judgment had found someone who understood the depths of his heart without needing explanations. The waiter approached, carrying 2 cups of steaming tea. Liam smiled and motioned for Alara to take hers. He wrote quickly, "Tea makes everything better, don't you think?" Alara nodded, writing, "Yes." Simple, warm, comforting like tonight. Liam's eyes softened. It was remarkable how something so ordinary could feel extraordinary when shared with the right person. And in that shared simplicity, he saw a glimpse of what life could be like when cruelty and judgment were set aside. The pranksters had gone silent now, their earlier smirks replaced by unease. One of them finally whispered, "I don't get it. Why does he make her laugh, make her smile just with writing?" But the answer was clear to everyone else in the restaurant. Liam's sincerity, patience, and willingness to truly see someone had created a connection that transcended barriers. The cruel joke had failed spectacularly. In fact, it had revealed something even more powerful: the strength of empathy, kindness, and genuine human attention. Alara's hand brushed his again as she reached for her tea, a small, accidental touch that sent a warmth through him he couldn't ignore. He wrote, "I think this might be the start of something special." Her eyes widened slightly, then softened. She wrote, "I think so too. I've never felt this understood." Liam leaned back slightly, smiling to himself. He had spent years focused on survival, on providing for his children, on doing the right thing without expecting recognition. And now, for the first time in a long time, he felt seen, not as a janitor, not as a single dad, not as someone the world underestimated, but as a man capable of connecting, caring, and being fully present. The restaurant had quieted further. Outside, the streets glistened with puddles, reflecting the city lights like scattered jewels. Liam looked at Alara and wrote, "Do you believe in serendipity?" She paused, then wrote with conviction, "Yes.
I think it brought me here tonight."
He smiled, feeling a rare sense of alignment in the universe. For all the planning, all the jokes, all the attempts at humiliation, this had turned into something far beyond anyone's expectation. A moment of cruelty had been transformed into a moment of grace. Liam's hand moved to hers gently, a silent gesture, and he wrote, "I hope this isn't the only time we meet like this." Alara's fingers lingered in response before she scribbled, "Neither do I." And in that shared silence, they both understood something profound. The world would always have those who mocked, those who underestimated, those who sought to bring others down. But tonight, they had discovered the power of seeing, truly seeing, and responding with courage, compassion, and authenticity. The pranksters slumped back in their chairs, defeated without a word. The joke had not only failed, it had revealed the extraordinary in the ordinary. Liam and Alara, 2 people from worlds that should have been incompatible, had built a bridge of trust, empathy, and mutual admiration. And as the night drew on, with the city quiet and the rain finally gone, both of them felt an undeniable truth settle in their hearts. Some encounters are meant to change everything. The restaurant had mostly emptied by now, leaving behind a soft, lingering quiet, punctuated only by the occasional clink of a chair or the gentle hum of the heater. Liam felt the weight of the evening press softly on his shoulders, not as fatigue, but as a sense of completeness. Every moment with Alara had been small yet profound, and he could feel the invisible threads of connection that had woven between them tightening into something real, something lasting. Alara looked up from her notebook, her eyes shimmering in the low light. "I don't know how to thank you," she wrote. "Most people never try to understand me. Tonight you did." Liam felt a lump in his throat. He wrote back slowly, each word deliberate. "You don't need to thank me. Being present, listening, seeing you, that's all the reward I need." It was then that he noticed the pranksters lingering near the entrance, their faces pale, awkward, and utterly defeated. They had anticipated humiliation, entertainment at someone else's expense, but instead, they had witnessed a quiet triumph of humanity. Liam's actions had turned their cruelty on its head, leaving them speechless. One of them, almost muttering to himself, whispered,
I didn't expect that.
Alara followed his gaze and noticed the group. Her lips curved into a small, knowing smile. She wrote, "They thought this would break you. Instead, it made you shine." Liam chuckled softly, a sound full of relief and warmth. He wrote, "Sometimes people reveal themselves in unexpected ways. Tonight, we revealed ourselves through kindness." The city outside glowed under the streetlights, the rain-slicked pavement reflecting 1,000 tiny sparks. Liam gestured subtly toward the window, then wrote, "The world can be cruel, but it can also be beautiful if you take the time to notice." Alara's fingers hovered for a moment before she scribbled, "I think tonight is proof. Even in the worst moments, there's room for light." Liam nodded. He had spent years navigating life with the careful balance of hope and caution. As a single father, he had learned that moments of joy were precious, rare, and often fleeting. Yet here was a moment he could hold on to, one that transcended circumstance and expectation. He felt it not just as a fleeting warmth, but as a seed of something lasting, something powerful. Their hands met briefly over the table, fingers brushing in a gesture of shared understanding. No words were needed. Everything had already been communicated in glances, scribbles, and the quiet confidence of two people recognizing themselves in each other. Alara wrote again, "I've never felt this scene before." Liam smiled, and with steady fingers he wrote, "You've always been seen. You just needed the right person to notice." At that moment, the pranksters finally realized the depth of what they had witnessed. Their laughter, their cruel whispers, had evaporated. One of them muttered, almost reverently, "I think we were wrong." The others simply shook their heads, humbled by a display of empathy, courage, and integrity far beyond anything they could have anticipated. The remaining diners, too, glanced at the table, some smiling quietly, touched by the unexpected beauty of human connection. Liam and Alara, in their corner, had turned a potentially humiliating setup into a testament to patience, understanding, and grace. They had done it not with words, but with heart, intention, and an unwavering commitment to each other's humanity. Alara's hand lingered on Liam's as she wrote her final note, "I hope this is the beginning of something more." Liam's chest tightened with emotion. He had faced doubt, judgment, and hardship in countless forms, yet none of it mattered now. Here was someone who saw him, not just the role he played in society, but the heart he carried, the love he had for his children, the integrity he lived by. He wrote back, simply, "It already is." The rain had stopped entirely now, leaving behind a crisp, clean night. The city felt quieter, more alive somehow, as if it, too, had been transformed by what had happened inside the restaurant. Liam and Alara stood together, gathering their things. Outside, the air smelled of wet asphalt and possibility. As they walked toward the door, Liam felt the lightness of a heart unburdened by expectation, and Alara matched his steps, her fingers brushing his once more. The pranksters, now leaving in silence, couldn't erase the truth of what they had witnessed. What they had intended as a joke had revealed the extraordinary capacity for human kindness, patience, and connection, and left them, too, inexplicably moved. Liam opened the door, holding it for Alara. She stepped out into the cool night, a small smile lighting her face. He wrote quickly on the last page of his notebook, "Thank you for trusting me tonight. I hope we can keep discovering each other." Alara's reply was immediate, "I trust you. And I want that too." For Liam, every step toward the car felt lighter, freer. He had faced judgment, cruelty, and doubt countless times in his life. But tonight, he had shown that sincerity, empathy, and courage could turn even a cruel setup into a night that would linger in memory forever. And for Alara, a world that had often overlooked her had, in one quiet corner of a restaurant, finally recognized her for who she truly was. As they walked into the city night, two lives touched and forever altered, the lesson was unmistakable. Kindness, understanding, and the courage to truly see someone could transform a moment of mockery into one of unforgettable beauty and leave even the cynics in tears.